Fannie, I think you're the first centurion that I've ever interviewed in my lifetime. So I appreciate that.
First? Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
The first question we always ask here on Borne the Battle is when and where did you know that military service was going to be the next step in your life?
When I graduated from high school and the war broke out.
Yes. What year was that?
I just graduated from high school.
Oh, right when the war broke out. So 1940?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
It was 1940, wasn't it? The war. Yeah, 1940.
So what made you want to join the military service? Was it just the war or what was
Well, there was a lot of advertisement and everything going on, and so I just thought, well, I'll give it a try. And it's not nice to say, but my mother had remarried, and I didn't particularly like her husband, so that gave me another push to go in the service.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Got you out of the house.
Yeah, got me out of the house.
Well, Miss Fannie, recently in the last couple of decades, there've been a lot of there've been a lot of segregated units that were lost in time until recently. Those stories are starting to be rediscovered, if you will. Tuskegee Airmen, Buffalo Soldiers, WACs, Montford Point Marines, Hellhounds from World War I. The 6888. Talk to me about them because
that was World War I, and that was Army.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The 6888. Talk to me about
not World War I, World War II. What am I talking about? I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
AAA was a postal unit that was sent over to England to clear up a lot of back mail because I guess the English were not taking care of it too well. And I guess it was one place that they could put a bunch of something like 800 black women.
So
in England.
So you were in England there. So the 6888, the 6888 Central Postal Director Battalion. How and why did it get formed to begin with?
I don't know why. Well, the why was to clear up all this mail that was going all over Europe. That apparently they'd been having a problem. And a lot of people were wondering why we were not asked to go overseas when other units were asked to go overseas, so they found a place to put us.
Gotcha, ma'am. What was so? You know, in the era of internet service where internet's everywhere and there's video chatting on on your.
I'm learning.
I love that you're learning. You know, and you can video chat on your phone now. I fear that this generation, that they don't understand the morale factor of a handwritten letter. When I was in Iraq in 2005, we were right before everything changed digitally. My future wife, she was writing to me a handwritten letter every day. I was out in Iraq. And I looked forward to those letters. You know, she'd soak them in perfume and everything. Talk to me about what did it mean for the soldiers out there on the front lines of World War II to get a piece of mail?
I'm sure that it meant a lot because when we got to England, we had this months of mail just piled up in tents and things, and they told us, it'll take you about 3 or 4 months to get rid of it, and I think we got rid of it in a very short time and got back on schedule.
Yeah, I think the mission was 6 months, and you got it done in 3, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yes. So you were an all-black, all-female unit, deployed.
All-female unit, right.
Deployed to a war zone in a foreign country. What were some of the hardships that you faced, ma'am, and how did you overcome them?
Well, we had 3 shifts, and most of the time I was on the shift from 1 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the later. And there were 3 shifts, and the only thing that bothered me a lot was the English were very strict on on making sure that the lights and everything were out. But we had to cross a railroad track that they dimmed the lights on the doggone thing, and you could hardly hear it. And that was the only thing that bothered me. Other than that, I was fine. In England, the people were very friendly. We took this old school and redid it so that the girls would have a place to live. The offices were put in. They rented homes for us close to the school. But the girls did all the painting and redoing of this old school.
Miss Fannie, where are you originally from?
Excuse me?
Where are you originally from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
I was born in Louisiana, but my mother moved to New York when I was in high school.
Okay.
And that's where I joined the service. 39 Whitehall Street.
Gotcha. Well, one of my very favorite, one of my, really close friends from the Marine Corps is from Louisiana. He's from Cutoff, Louisiana. I don't know where it is, but I know he's back there right now.
I haven't the faintest idea where it is either. I was born in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good.
Uh-huh.
So the 688, they had some casualties as well, correct? The battalion.
Excuse me. I didn't understand that.
No worries. So the 688, the battalion, you all had some casualties as well, correct? Basically, the 688, I've read that they make up 3 of the 4 female graves at Normandy. Is that right?
That happened in France. Because I remember I was the supervisor of the group who went to this outfit for this dinner party and so forth. But that was in France.
Uh-huh. Well, were they part of the 688?
Yes, they were. The units, quite often, if we were near a male unit anywhere, they on the weekends sometimes they would invite the girls over to eat or music, dancing, or something like that. And I was one of the 3 officers who were with those girls when we went to this particular unit. And apparently 3 of them got in a Jeep with some of the unit people, and that's how that happened.
Gotcha.
I had a friend who was from New York, and she wanted to pass out, and I said, "Don't pass out on me now." Anyway, the commander said, they could identify 2 of the girls, but they couldn't identify one. She failed to have her dog tags on. So I had to wait to go over to the field hospital to identify her. And the rest of the girls went back to the unit. The commander drove me back to my unit after I had identified this girl.
Gotcha. So it must have been a pretty terrible wreck there.
It was. Apparently, I don't know. Hey, you tell them don't do this, don't do that, but they're women.
That's right. They're young. They're young women, young men and women in service and war there. So this was in France. Was this?
This is in Rouen. This is in Rouen, France.
Okay. So did the battalion move from England to France at a certain time?
Excuse me?
So did the battalion move from England to France at a certain time?
Yes, after German, after the war was over in Germany.
Okay, so this was during occupation after the war was over.
We didn't know that we were going to go to France, but we enjoyed it.
Now, Miss Fannie, I bet. Now, Miss Fannie, there's a documentary out there that tells this story and about this unit that you are part of. How important is it for you now that this story is out there being told?
Well, it's interesting because I just thought I was part of the service like everybody else, and we went home, told our families what we went through, where we had been, and all that sort of thing. I didn't get excited about having a drum beat or anything like that. I understand some people say, well, didn't they have any parades or anything? I wasn't looking for a parade. I was just looking to get home and tell my folks all the things I had done overseas.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Matter of fact, but as of right now, people are bringing it up because it kind of got lost to history there for many years that this was a unit out there. Matter of fact, like many segregated units and many segregated people, Chinese Americans from World War II, the aforementioned Montford Point Marines and others, they've all received a Congressional Gold Medal. The 6888, you're currently in that process too, correct?
Well, I don't understand because several people have questioned me, and why should I be upset? There were other people who went overseas, and I'm sure they didn't have the accolades that people think that we should have had. But it's nice to know that they are remembering us now, and it. But I mean, if they hadn't done it, it wouldn't have been any difference to me.
Thank you. You're amazing, Miss Annie. You're amazing. Do you know of some of but I'm sure it probably means something to some of the ladies that, because again, nobody even knew this story until maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. And after I'd been out of the service and back into the Air Force.
That's right. After the war, you left the service, like many other.
After I got out, was discharged at Camp Lee, Virginia. I guess it's Fort Lee. That it was called later. And I started going to school in New York, and got a job with Macy's, and stayed there for a while. And then when I found out, when they notified me, they were going to make the women's services a permanent part of the military, they wrote and asked me if I was interested in coming back. Well, Macy's was nice, but wasn't the greatest thing in my life. So.
You wanted to get back, and you were ready to get back in uniform.
My mother said, "Oh no, we're going again," and I said, "Yeah, I guess we're going again." You had to have recommendations from some of your old commanders in the Army, and one of my commanders wrote, and he said, "Well, you had the experience of the Army. Why not go in the Air Force? It's different, it's new, and you might like it." And so that's why I joined the Air Force. I didn't go back in the Army.
Very good. So is it true you became the first female commander in the Air Force?
I think that was published by the people out of Offutt, because that was my first duty station in the Air Force, Offutt Air Force Base.
Okay. Yeah, the 509th Service Squad. The 509th Service.
509. That's right, the 509.
From what I understand, it was an all-male unit, not even a female young airman. That had to have been, what leadership qualities came into play there to get those to lead men?
The interesting thing in some cases were, some men were not used to being told by women what to do. But I had one man who was assigned to me, and he went to the commander and said he just couldn't work for a woman. And so the commander transferred him. But the interesting thing about him was he would come by so often and ask if there was anything he could help me with.
The same guy, the same airman.
The same guy who said he would not like to work for women. But I don't know where he is today. But he kept up with me until I got back in the States.
Oh wow!
But there were people in the unit. About 4 guys who was born in the United States, but re-enlisted when they went back to Ireland, into England, and that I thought was quite interesting. I even was at both of their weddings.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
What leadership qualities for if there's any young female women out there that are looking to lead in the military today, what some of the leadership qualities helped you in that journey?
I don't know. I had a great mom.
Great mom.
I had a great mom who felt that nobody could outdo anything. And if you told her she couldn't do it, don't do it because she'd get it done.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I go back in life. My father was in World War One, but he died when I was only 5 years old.
Gotcha.
And my mom had 2 kids to raise.
Wow.
Didn't like the idea of my going in the service.
Sure.
But I had a sister who was younger, and she wouldn't let her go, and she blamed me all her life. And she wasn't allowed to go in the service because of me.
She's like, your mom was like, I already got 1 baby in the service. I ain't getting 2.
That's what she says. I'm not giving 2 children to the military.
Wow. Wow.
You know, it wasn't a fun thing, but it was an interesting thing because I always loved history and geography, and to be able to see the places that I had studied about both in England and in France, and of course later on in Spain.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting. It's really interesting.
It is. I didn't know.
Coming out of Louisiana and knowing a little bit about the French, that helped a lot.
Gotcha. Being in that Cajun down there, you probably have a little bit of French in you. Gotcha.
Well, there was one thing that happened. This is after I was married. Of course, you know the service don't promise you they're going to keep you together if you get married.
That's right.
Yeah, and I met my husband in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He was in personnel. That's the only thing that helped me. And he knew people at the Pentagon, and I knew people at the Pentagon. And we got with them, and they got us together. But ordinarily, that doesn't happen.
No. Especially with the Air Force, they're usually flush with cash and don't care if they got to pay that separation pay. Whereas the Marine Corps, Marine Corps is a little cheap about that. They'll keep you together just to save a buck. You know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lady here who was in the Navy, and she seemed to have done all right. Christine.
So let me make. Oh, gotcha. Your niece there, Miss Fannie. While you were in, can you give me either a best friend or your greatest mentor?
A best friend. Well, there were 4 of us. Went around together.
Foursome.
And 2 of them were in my OCS class in Des Moines when I was in the Army. And they're all gone now, unfortunately. And when we were in New Hampshire, that was their last one. And I just received a card from her daughter saying she just had twins, and I know her mother would have loved that.
Oh wow, that's amazing that you still keep in touch with the kids.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's kids who are writing me that I don't even know. Their grandmother. I got 2 letters from Minnesota and another letter from Ohio, and I guess I don't know the information that's out must tell where we are, or they must know someone who was in service or something. So every once in a while, I get a note from someone.
Wow. So y'all must have been pretty close as friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Miss Fannie, you retired after over 26 years of service, leaving in
26 and a half years.
Excuse me. So over 26.
I count my half.
Yes, ma'am. You got to count that half. That's absolutely.
I couldn't count that half, but I count my half.
Hey, that's important. Yeah, I was told by a friend.
That's both between the Army and the Air Force, because the Army I think was 4 years or something like that. I'm not exactly sure.
You got to count every day, every month. Absolutely. But so you did over 26 years of service, retiring in 1971. Yes. What did you do the first day as a civilian?
My husband was interested in getting his PhD, and he wanted to come to ASU. And so we left New Hampshire. We both retired right around the same time.
Okay.
And so we came to Arizona for him to go to school. And we just stayed. We sold our house. Somebody wanted to buy our house back in New Hampshire, and we've been here ever since. I've lost him, but he taught school in several of the high schools here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I went to Arizona State myself. I went online on the computer. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have you been here recently?
I graduated there in 2018. So I actually went. I never actually was on campus. I was online on the computer, but I went home. But
unbelievable how it's grown. Unbelievable. You wouldn't know the place.
Yeah, I did get to go and walk in graduation there, though. It was good.
See, even the golf course. The getting rid of the golf course and they're going to build something over there. Well, Tempe doesn't have much space. So, I mean, if you want to build something, you better knock something down.
That's crazy. Yeah, it was pretty tight. Were
you from here?
No. I went to school while I was working. So I would do night school in North Carolina, but it was for Arizona State.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
You're a long way from home.
Yes, ma'am. I'm originally from Seattle, actually.
Oh, from Seattle. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I live in Washington.
I've never been up to that area. Just the furthest north I was San Francisco.
Gotcha.
Just visit friends.
Very good. Very good. Mm-hmm. So
did a lot of traveling when I was overseas. I think that one of the funny things that happened that you might be interested in.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes time for you to go overseas, the assignment came in, and I was to go to North Africa. And the commander in North Africa, when he found out that I was a woman, he didn't want a woman squadron commander at his unit. And this is Air Force.
Yeah.
And so they had to reassign me, and they were going to reassign me in England. And I said, "Oh, that's fine. I've been to England before. That'll be great." Then there was a colonel walked in and looked at the assignment in personnel. And he said, "Oh, I like that assignment." So there went my assignment in England. So the next one, the sergeant called me up and he says, "Ma'am," he says, "can you come to personnel?" Oh, I said, "Do you have an assignment?" And he said, "Ma'am, just come over to personnel." As soon as I walked in the door, he said, "Don't go to the club and have a drink and tell anybody anything." He said, "I can't find any more assignments for you.
You quit talking about where we're sending you and we'll get you somewhere good."
And so he says, "You're going to stay. Now keep it quiet," he said. "And we're working on seeing if your husband can go along with you." Because he was I was in SAC, and he was in the, not the bomber. He had the command. And so they had to work with two commands in order to get us together.
Gotcha. Very good. Very good.
Since I've seen the gentleman, the colonel.
Yes.
And while I was going to school at the University of New Hampshire, I met him at the club, and we were talking about our assignments. And suddenly it occurred to him I was the one he had turned down.
Really?
Yes. And he said, after talking with me for a while, we had a couple of drinks. "I'm sorry." He says, "I want to apologize. If I had known you were so much fun," he said, "I never would have turned you down."
Hey,
a few funny things that happened in my life.
Hey, Miss Fannie, it seems like back in the day you were a lot of fun. I definitely would have had a couple drinks with you as well. Absolutely. Okay. So you after you got out of the service, you started up an antique store that you just recently closed.
Yes. I learned an awful lot about antiques while I was in England, and also in New England when we moved to New England.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it, especially in England, because at the time, you remember, in England, they put everything in vaults during the war.
Yes.
Well, when they opened the vaults, a lot of people didn't go back for the things that they had. So they used to have auctions and things, and I'd go to auctions, and I learned a lot there.
Wow. So you saw some of the stuff that the Germans confiscated.
Huh?
So you saw a lot of the stuff that the Germans had confiscated during the war.
Oh yes.
What was one of the neatest things that you saw in one of those auctions or those vaults?
There was, and I still have it, and it's a wine barrel that was just beautiful. It was all cut glass, and I hope not to get rid of it ever. But I bought other things, and my dishes. We were able to go to the Wedgwood factory while I was stationed over there, and I ordered a set of dishes, and I still have that.
Wow. So that's been with you for 80 years or more, less.
Well, you take advantage while you're there. I traveled all over England during the time I was there. Someone said, well, where did you work? I said, well, I had work, but there are times you have time off.
Got to enjoy it.
And we go down to London, to the theater. And that's at that time I saw Mr. Churchill coming out of number 10 Downing Street.
Wow.
There were lots of things happened in my life, so I can't say I was unhappy in the service.
No, it sounds like you had a great time. But
I enjoyed it. In France, we didn't work as hard because we had the German prisoners. And they did all the cooking and everything in the dining room and all. And when these girls were killed in that's why I knew it was France. In France, my commander found out that when they buried the soldiers there, it was in a shelter house. And so she figured she didn't want that to happen. So they went into the town and got wood, and the German prisoners built caskets for the girls to be buried in.
Oh, wow.
So
that's an amazing story.
Well, it's, you do what you have to do.
Yes, ma'am. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to antiquing for just half a second.
Certainly.
So are you as far as antiquing, are you an avid Pawn Stars or Antiques Roadshow or an American Pickers watcher?
No, not really. I've seen the Roadshow and all that sort of thing, but I specialize in crystal. I like crystal.
Okay.
And still do.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing today is a lot of young people are not interested.
No, you know what? You're right about that. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess there's so many other things like learning how to use one of these doggone telephones. And there's so many things that happen that keep their minds busy, and you don't have to even think anymore. All you do is push a button or something like that. So I'm trying to learn. I got a new telephone the other day. So I was telling Christine I got it, but I haven't really learned to use it yet.
Gotcha. Well, I like that you're still learning. You're taking the time to try to learn new stuff, though, even at 100. That's amazing.
Oh, well, we're trying. I'm trying.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
trying.
Yes,
I'll learn it. I mean, I haven't given up.
That's right. Fannie, what is one thing that you learned during your time in the military that you applied to what you did after the service and even to what you do today?
Well, my husband and I like to travel. He was from Pennsylvania, graduated from Oberlin College in Ohio.
Yeah.
And loved teaching. And from time to time, we would take time off, and in the summer, and that's how we got up to San Francisco and places like that.
So during
The only other place that was before I was with him, I went to Chicago to visit a friend just passing through, and that.
So you would say travel.
She lived next door to Jesse Owen.
Oh, really?
I got to meet Jesse Owen. I got to meet some interesting people.
No kidding.
Even General LeMay.
Wow.
Well, I was in supply, and they needed something for the B-52, a pot. And we had to go up to Nevada, to Utah, sorry, to get it. So my boss said, "You ever been up to Utah?" "No, sir, I have not." So he says, "Well, we got to go get a part. They need something for the B-52." So I did go up with him, but the Air Force, the Army, I don't know if you would get very upset with the Air Force. You don't walk in and have a requisition and expect to get the item. You send the requisition in, and then when they call you, then you come pick it up. Well, it was a Friday, and the sergeant took one look at us and says, "Well, we won't be open until Monday."
Oh, wow.
So our pilot was from California, and that was one of my first trips to California. And he said, "You ever been to California?" And I said, "Well, what's happening?" He said, "Well, they're not going to take care of us until Monday. And so we may as well do something, and I'm close to home." And so I said, "Well, okay." He said, "Okay, pull up your hips, girl. Let's go." And I had some friends in California, and I saw them. I was at March Air Force Base, and they picked me up, and they gave me instructions where to be on Sunday night to go back to pick up this equipment, and we did. So when he had to go and brief the general and the people who were going to use these parts, he says, "You better come with me," because he says, "I might forget some of the things that we had." So I went with him, and that's how I met the general. I didn't have an unhappy life in the service.
It doesn't sound like you did.
There are times when I thought it was pretty awful that they didn't let me in. When we were in basic training, you had to give you a list of things you wanted out of the BX because the black girls couldn't go in the BX.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those crazy things that happened.
Well, ma'am, my hat's off to you, because it was because of women like you that went and did that during that time that that's not a thing anymore. So,
yeah,
and it started with you, and I appreciate you. I know they do too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess the one thing that you learned during your time in the military was the love of travel. You love to travel.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. So, Miss Fannie, the audience of this podcast is mostly veterans, mostly VA employees. Is there anything that I've missed or haven't asked that you think is important to share for anybody that's listening to this?
Today, there is so many things that women can get into, and I don't know if this would suit what they would like to do or not. But to me, the war was going on, and there were things that had to be done, like the ladies who worked on planes and all that sort of thing. But I don't know what I would have done if there hadn't been a war.
Yeah.
Because I was in school, and I wanted to be a teacher. Was accepted at Harvard University, but then I was on my way to the service, so that was over.
What about for maybe a prospective young service member or a young veteran that says, "I want to be the next Fannie Griffin McClendon," as looks to you?
Oh, boy. And I haven't met one yet, but I'm hoping to.
Do you have any advice for them, young ladies out there?
I tried to apply myself to whatever was happening in the area at the time, or the place that we were being sent or something like that, and learn something about it. And actually, it went right along with the things that I was doing in school. So it's just that I had a mom who was very curious about a lot of things, and I guess I got a lot of that from her.
So
she never said can't, I won't do. There was so much to learn. There's so much to learn today. Plus all this electronic stuff that was getting to me. But I'm not giving up.
That's right. No, you're not. Well, Fannie, thank you so much for joining us here on Borne the Battle. Thank you so much for taking the time. And
well, thank you for calling. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C. Oh. I can't believe I didn't tell you.
Well, that is not one of my favorite cities, but okay.
Not one of mine either, ma'am. I just work here. I just work in the area. It's where the job was.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sure you're doing the job you went there for, and you probably found out a lot more stuff than before you went there about Virginia and all those cities and states around in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
My only time of going to Virginia, there was an assignment that they needed 4 women. And there were 2 black and 2 white. And it was a last-minute assignment for this school at Fort Lee, Virginia, or Camp Lee, or whatever they're calling it today.
Okay.
And so I was able to see that area a lot during the time I was there. But if there was such a thing as rank among second lieutenants, I was the ranking second lieutenant, and I had all the paperwork and all. So we were told we could not get sleepers until we got on the other side of Ohio. It's the lower part of Ohio.
Okay.
And so I had all the paperwork and all. Well, we got on the train there, and we got settled, sat and played cards and everything. And someplace called Bluefield, West Virginia, one of the people came through and said, "Oh, the white folks follow me." And so one girl was from Virginia, one was from Massachusetts, I was from New York, and the other girl was from Alabama. The other black girl was from Alabama. And she kept saying, "Griffin, don't say anything, but you're from New York. But this is the way things are done down here." And I'm saying, "Well, what's he talking about?" So these girls, the one from Massachusetts didn't know what to do, but the one from Virginia knew what to do.
Yeah.
So she grabbed her, and off they went. Well, I still had all the paperwork. So when we got to the place where we had to change over to get on the sleeper, she says, "Are you going to go try to find them?" I said, "No, they're white folks. Let them be white folks."
Wow.
So we got into Virginia, into Camp Lee, but into the train station there. So, well, I knew all the things I had to do: call the base, get transportation, and report in and all. And I didn't see them. Because I was in a black waiting room.
Wow.
So, they came, they picked us up, and we reported in, and they took us to our quarters, which is the quarters for all 4 of us. Really.
Yeah.
So about 3 or 4 hours later, in come these 2 old gals coming up the steps, and I'm laughing, and I'm saying, "Where the hell y'all been?" And of course, by this time, Williams has relaxed, the one from from Alabama.
Yeah.
And so they said, "Well, they didn't have any paperwork, so they couldn't take the sleeper on into Virginia, into the city." And then they didn't know how to get to the post and had to get to a taxi.
So they had a rough time. They had a rough time.
we were there for 4 weeks. The week before, I said, Williams, let's go down. Oh, by the way, I handed them all their paperwork and said, you're big girls. You take care of yourself from here on out.
Yeah.
So the week before graduation, I said, Williams, let's go down and get our reservations to go back to Des Moines. And so I said, because you know how hard it is to get a sleeper. So we did. So after at graduation, one comes over to me and she said, did you get our reservation? I said, no, I didn't have any paperwork. They slept. I mean, they stayed up all the way back to Des Moines. So, as I said, there were times that it was kind of funny.
Sure. You got to you figured out.
I made I think I wasn't going to sit down and worry about anything.
Yeah.
So to me, that was funny.
Yeah, you figured out a way to work through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good to go. Well, Fannie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and we're out here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
We gotta get them one way or the other. Machine gunner, firefight, bullets fly, day and night rain. Simplify, do or die, another campaign. My desk is a rock where the drug lords cut up millions. My pen is a 7.62 round that'll cut them down in an instant. Point, click, pull the trigger to the tune of falling brass. Full benefits and a purple heart and a Russian-made bullet in my bag. Raining down lead, punching that clock. Get 'em boys, I'm laying down cover. Machine gunner, firefight, bullets fly, day and night rain. Simplify, do or die, another campaign. Here we go, lock and load, 0331, lug 1,000 rounds, and I ain't bringing back one.